Style and music go hand in hand, and for the best dressed musicians, the clothes they wear are a form of artistic expression, just like the music and the lyrics. Not only have style and music evolved in parallel over the decades, but countless young men have been inspired to dress just like their favorite pop star or rock star. In today's video, we are going to look at 5 of the best dressed musicians of all time. We will analyze their style, discuss the inspiration behind their iconic looks, and see what we can learn from them. I've deliberately not included crooners or jazz musicians like Sinatra or Miles Davis in this video, because although they were impeccably dressed, so was the standard for men of their time. Instead, I thought it would be interesting to look at men who broke the mold with their style of dressing and went against convention. So, gentlemen, let's begin with musician number 1. Paul Weller is best known as the guitarist and lead singer of The Jam, a British 3-piece punk band that emerged in the mid to late 70s. What made The Jam so interesting stylistically is that they went in the total opposite direction of other punk groups. While bands like the Sex Pistols and the Clash created a uniform of ripped clothing, spiked hair, and piercings, The Jam were renowned for their 2-piece suits. Paul Weller was greatly inspired by the mod movement and brought that subculture's preference for tailoring into the punk scene. Interestingly, no bands at the time copied The Jam's style, which only made it more distinctive for them. Looking good was so important to Paul Weller that he named his next band the Style Council. In the Style Council, Weller was able to express a more sophisticated side to himself, both with music and with his clothing. Here's what he said in a retrospective interview with Mr. Porter about his sartorial choices in the 80s. Every look I had at the time, I believed in. I had a concept in my head. Me and Mick Talbot, especially in the early days of the Style Council, we spent a lot of time in Europe, in Paris and Italy, seeing all these colors and these jumpers. At that time in England, you couldn't really get that stuff. From Paul Weller, I think we can learn to break the mold of our existing environment. It's hard to think of anything more ballsy than turning up to play a punk gig in a 2-piece suit in 1977. So if you want to wear tailoring more, but you're worried about what people might think, take a leaf out of Paul Weller's book and wear that suit on your own terms. Jimi Hendrix is not a name that normally comes up in discussions of classic style, and indeed the clothes he wore do not fall within the remit of what I normally talk about on this channel. But I wanted to talk about this guitar legend because what he did with his clothes reveals some interesting lessons that I think we can learn from. Hendrix was the original peacock. When he came to London in 1966, he scoured thrift stores and vintage stores looking for some interesting clothes that would match his mind-bending guitar skills. What made Hendrix's look unique is that he didn't fit into one particular category, rather he took inspiration from everywhere. Look, for example, at the military-style jacket, which he wore with long flowing scarves, or the white fringe jacket he wore at Woodstock with a pink bandana around his head. He had this ability to combine timeless character looks with the flamboyancy of the hippie era, without looking like he was wearing a costume. Hendrix's girlfriend in London, Kathy Etchingham, said he had a style of his own, wearing satin shirts with voluminous sleeves, army jackets and bell-bottoms with scarves tied around the legs long before anyone else. Although the actual clothes are very different, I can't help but be reminded of Jimi Hendrix when I see the peacocks of Pitti Uomo. Just like the modern followers of so-called sprezzatura, Hendrix's outfits were daring and eye-catching, but still looked like they were hurriedly put together with little thought. From this guitar god, perhaps you can be inspired to combine different influences and unusual pieces with classic menswear to create a unique look. Gentlemen, I could not have made this video without talking about one of my favorite all-time musicians and style icons, Bryan Ferry. From his glam rock beginnings as the frontman of Roxy Music to his reign as the king of sophisticated synth pop in the 1980s, style has always been important for Mr. Ferry. In the early 70s, Ferry and the rest of the band Roxy Music used image to shock, experimenting with makeup, over-the-top hairdos, and glitter. But quickly, Ferry's tastes moved toward a debonair, classic style of dressing, unlike any other rock star at that time. The singer's love of a two-piece suit, a knitted tie, and formal evening wear have earned him the reputation as the best-dressed man in music, and have contributed to the universe of sophistication, seduction, and mystery that he created with his music. More than anyone else in this video, Bryan Ferry loves the classics. While he could never claim to have invented an outfit like the white dinner jacket, his decision to wear these clothes in a context that nobody else has have made them distinctly his. He is also an outspoken advocate of tailoring and the bespoke process, telling GQ, "I like fabrics and tactility, going into tailors and having shirts made. It's not cheap, but I would rather have one great shirt than 12 that aren't so great. You feel you're supporting an empire that shouldn't crumble." Another man whose love of tailoring separates him from his contemporaries is Nick Cave. The frontman of the Bad Seeds is proof that goth can indeed be sophisticated. Cave has a personal uniform of a black suit and then normally a white dress shirt worn deeply unbuttoned. In fact, it's hard to imagine he ever leaves the house in anything else. I love anyone who holds themselves to a high standard like this. Whatever your style, always looking your best is a very underrated philosophy in our time. Not only does Nick Cave wear his personal uniform so consistently, but he's also worn it for such a long time. Even when he was a heroin addict in the 1980s, he still wore a suit and tie. What makes Cave so interesting is that he combines these high-end looks with the darkness and sleaze of his music. This contrast makes him a more enigmatic performer and has helped him seem relevant and distinctive as other goth artists of the 1980s appear increasingly washed up. Just like Paul Weller, Cave has created a distinct sartorial path for himself without much consideration as to what his contemporaries are wearing. But it seems that for Cave, his stylistic choices are just as much about functionality and practicality as they are artistic expression. "I wear suits and it's just very easy," he told Australian newspaper The Age. "I have 3 or 4 shirts on the go and 3 suits. I wear one for a couple of days and then get the next one out. So I don't have to think too much about it." I want to finish today's video with a musician from the 1950s who broke the mold of classic menswear and continues to inspire the way men dress today. That is Elvis Presley. Although he is sadly often remembered for his rhinestone jumpsuits of the Vegas era, Elvis in the mid to late 1950s was a refreshing beacon of style. His sharp blazers, pastel shirts, and signature pompadour brought a refreshing yet polished way of dressing into the mainstream. Although Elvis shocked audiences at the time, his way of dressing was in many ways conservative. He hated jeans, loved penny loafers, and said himself, "I like real conservative clothes, something that's not too flashy." When you look at the off-duty outfits like the polo shirt and the Cuban collar shirt that Elvis so frequently wore, you can find inspiration for outfits that men still wear today. What I think we can learn from Elvis is that you don't have to wear a traditional suit and tie to dress sharp and get people's attention. Use the blazer to create a strong silhouette, and most importantly, wear your outfits with the same humble confidence and swagger as the king of rock and roll. Gentlemen, it's time to head to the comments and let me know, who do you think is the best dressed musician of all time? Is it one of the men I included in this video, or do you have a different style hero you can share with us? If you like the advice I share in my videos and you would like some help so you can dress better, click the link in the description where you can book a one-to-one style consultation with me. I've been doing more and more of these lately, and it's an incredibly fun and rewarding process for both me and my clients. So please do click that link in the description. Thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.